Welcome to Local Voices on 94.7 KPIP. Today we are honored to be present at the grand opening of the new show at the Ashby Hodge Gallery of American Art. Now, they have two shows here, and the new collection that we're interviewing the artist for is Fleeting Moments, featuring the works of art by Erin Price. And with me today at the grand opening of the show is Erin Price. How are you doing, Erin?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me today.
You have a wonderful collection here. I am so impressed that you have done so many works.
Thank you very much. It's a labor of love for me.
Now, our listeners are interested in you as an artist. Do you mind if I ask you a couple of personal questions?
Certainly. Go ahead.
Okay. Now, how did you get the art bug?
Wow, that is a big question. As an art teacher and an artist my whole life, I would say that we all have the art bug, and sometimes we just haven't had the chance to let it take over. In my background as an art teacher, I think a lot of my inspiration comes from my own art teachers way back in middle and high school. Shout out to Steve Warren and Chip Stamper and Maurice McNabb, who all just really taught me to pay attention to the things that I see, and really gave me the opportunity to experiment and keep practicing so that I could grow as an artist.
Now, I know you live here in Missouri. Did you grow up in Missouri?
I did. I'm originally an Iowa girl, but I moved as a child to Lake of the Ozarks. I graduated from Camden High School, and I started my teaching career there as well.
Did Missouri influence your art?
Absolutely. I think that we're all influenced by our own environments. As an adult, living in other places, as I looked around and appreciated the visual culture and the natural beauty and the ways that people interacted, I was constantly going back to think about the ways that I was influenced by those same things growing up. And it was when I lived on the West Coast that I really started longing for the lush bean fields and the Midwestern skies and appreciating some of those things that I might have taken for granted in my early years.
Now, you've traveled all over outside the United States, correct?
I wouldn't say all over, but I have lived on 3 continents. When I went away to college, I had an academic scholarship to what used to be Southwest Missouri State, which is now Missouri State University, and I had never been on an airplane at that point, but I was so fortunate and blessed by my experiences to study away both within the United States and abroad. And I think that opened my eyes to many things. It really had me interrogate myself and just really was a teaching experience for me that later was very useful in the classroom.
What places have you been?
I first lived in London. I've traveled quite a few places, primarily in Western Europe, and then lived in Asia, which is where this show was spawned.
Conceived, maybe?
Yes. The seeds for all of these paintings came out of my relationships and appreciation for the culture in Asia, where I lived with my young family. And so while I only lived there for a year and a half, I've taken numerous trips back, and it was just a very formative time in my family's growing. So it's a very special place in my heart.
So which one would you say you liked better, China or London?
That's a really tough one, although I would say Hong Kong is the best of both worlds. But living in London was my first opportunity to really live somewhere where I could be immersed in museums and history and the display of so many aspects of culture, to think about maybe the voices that weren't represented in some of those arenas, and just to grow and mature as a person. Living in China, however, completely changed me as a person, gave me a passion for teaching art and the importance of it for helping children to grow, and just the experiences that can make life so much richer. And I recently went back with my family to China with 2 of my 3 daughters and my husband, and it was amazing how much it had changed in the short time, the 6 years since I last visited. And I can't pick a favorite, but China is extremely special to me.
Now, I look around at all your pieces. They're beautiful, first of all. And second of all, I see a lot of color. Can you tell me what your favorite medium to work with is?
So That also is difficult as an artist and an art teacher, and I'm always trying to expose myself and my students to a variety of media. I love oil paints, but these are primarily in acrylic, and that was just because of the utility of my first show in this series happening when I didn't have my own studio. I began these works, many of these works, as demonstrations in the classroom for middle school students, and so having the utility of being able to transport them back and forth when I would go home at 8 or 9 at night and want to work in my tiny living room with my family all around me, it was really important to have the utility to have something that wasn't going to smear or be toxic in any way. So acrylics are what I primarily worked with in this series.
And if you had to pick a favorite subject, people, places, things, what would that be?
I love people. So it makes sense that I like to pay tribute to them by portraying them. But you'll also notice that quite a few of my works are cropped to emphasize certain details, either portraying handiworks or clothing that has significance, or emphasizing the hands or certain expressions that were important to capture the feeling of the experiences that I had. So while I love landscapes, and I am very thankful to some of the local Missouri artists who have tagged along with me, like Lynn Ferris and Mike Seat, who have helped broaden my exposure to plein air painting, I really love people, and particularly as an artist and art teacher, I love capturing the different ways that people communicate through the arts.
And you mentioned you are an art teacher. Can you tell me where you teach art and a little bit about what you do there to help enrich students' lives?
Sure. So actually, I am sad to say that I'm no longer in the K-12 classroom because I am teaching future elementary education majors at the University of Missouri. I teach them a course called Art for Children, and I love doing that and also seeing them grow as artists and in their confidence in communicating and thinking through art. But I taught K-12. I've taught after-school community programming for both youth and adults, and I just love seeing how different people's voices are elevated and expressed through those opportunities.
Do you find that you are inspired? I know you're inspired by people and some of the places that you visited, but are you influenced by any particular artists?
I actually am very much influenced by an Oregon artist named Betty LeDuc, who I've had the opportunity to meet, and she has encouraged me greatly. She also traveled extensively to different cultures as a young lady, and traveled and lived in Mexico, studied there, and she inspires me with the way that she pays tribute to people from a variety of cultures. I'm also very inspired by our Missouri's own Thomas Hart Benton for his incredible use of color, the grand design, and just the way that he can tell a story and capture daily ways of life. And I love that those things, for good or bad, have been memorialized for us to look at history and how our society has functioned.
And is this your first official show? I'm sure it's not.
No, I've actually shown extensively in the Northwest, in University of Oregon, and a number of universities and galleries throughout Washington, Oregon. This is my first full show. Well, it's my second full show in Missouri, solo show, but it's my first showing this series. So I'm very excited to debut this series here at the Ashby Hodge Gallery.
Well, thank you so much, Erin. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, and you must come see the show. What is the name of the show again?
It's called Fleeting Moments. It captures many of the changing traditions in the Sino-Tibetan borderlands.
Absolutely. We urge everyone to come see Erin Price's work. The gallery will be open Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from today through April 9th, excluding spring break week, which is March 21st through the 29th. Hours of operation are from 1:30 to 4:30 p.m. And to schedule a special visit or for more information on the show, you can contact the gallery by contacting Denise Haskamp at 660-248-6301 or D. Haskamp at centralmethodist.edu. I'm Rachel Steele for Local Voices. Thanks for tuning in. 94.7 KPIP.